Hello, everyone. Today we talk about service, living as prayer. Let's open with a prayer. Beloved Source, beloved Guru, beloved Earth, we enter the temple of service. Let our words, our listening, and our silence become prayer. May this teaching not remain as concept, but awaken as action, as orientation, and as life itself. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Guru Om, Amen, Aho, Ashe. And so it is. Today, beloveds, we talk about service. At Merkaba Temple, service is a sacred act of devotion, an offering of love, healing, and wisdom to others in alignment with divine will. To serve is to embody the divine in action, recognizing that when we uplift others, we uplift ourselves and the collective consciousness of all of humanity. True service is not just about giving. It is about being a vessel of light, a vessel of compassion and transformation. It is an expression of gratitude for the gifts that we have received and a commitment to sharing those blessings with the world. So let's start today with a self-quiz. Let me ask you some questions. Be honest with yourself, but gentle as you listen. When someone asks for help, do you feel guilty if you say no? Do you sometimes give until you're empty and then quietly resent it? Or when you serve, do you feel energized, alive, and more connected to yourself and others? Do you believe service has to look like something big and visible, or could it be as small as tending your own breath? So take a breath, everyone, and notice where you land. This is your starting point today. Back in December, I led a retreat. And during retreats and immersions, we're holding sacred space for 1, 2, 3, 4. On this particular retreat, I was holding space with my co-facilitator for 4 wonderful men. One of the guys was having trouble surrendering. It was really hard for him and would fight me on everything, right? I want to do this, I want to do that, and that can be tough, right? It's tough to serve, when people are that you're trying to serve are coming at you and kind of attacking you in a way, and it just it definitely makes it tougher, right? And so it was important for me to really stay grounded and remember why I was there, what my purpose was, and not get caught up in the things that can happen, right? Ego things that can happen when you're serving. And someone that you're serving is either not listening to you or doesn't want to listen to you or is telling you that they know better or whatever, right? So it was tough. It was really, really kind of a tough week because I think that I triggered him in a lot of ways and vice versa. But I was able to take that to my co-facilitator, to talk about it, to breathe into it, to pray about it, to ground it, and realize that none of that really had anything to do with me. It was stuff that he was working through, and it was a necessary part of his immersion. Sometimes one of the most beautiful things that we can work on during our work with a therapist or a coach or a retreat facilitator is getting triggered by them, right? If your therapist pisses you off, that's a good day. And it's an even better day when you can look at your therapist in the eyes and say, you know what, therapist, you really pissed me off today, right? And that's good, right? It's great that if you can do that, do it. As a therapist myself for over 17 years, I love that. I love when clients come to me and say, Chris, you really pissed me off today. Like I did not agree with what you were saying or da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, tell me more. Like I think it's so powerful to be able to assert yourself, right? And so he did that, and it was really beautiful. But had we not had conflict, he would not have come to the other side of that, and neither would I, right? Which was so beautiful. So by the end of the week, it got pretty bad. And he was like, I don't want you like talking to me or working with me. I'm going to work with the other co-facilitator. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever you know what you need, and whatever you need, I will respect that and honor that. And after our final ceremony, Friday night, where he literally was kneeling over the fire, sweating, pouring into the fire for like 4 hours. And as I sat there holding the sacred space for him to heal and to do this beautiful work, with not expecting anything for myself in return, but just holding this beautiful space, understanding that by me serving unconditionally, without having expectations, that he was able to work through everything that he worked through. And it was beautiful to see all of that dissolve into the fire. Sure enough, after that ceremony, I got a big hug. I got a thank you. I got respect again. I was, the next day it was like beautiful. It was like our whole relationship had transformed, right? And so for me, that was what it was like to serve from a deeper place, right? Serve without having expectations. That experience, it opened my eyes, and it showed me that service is not a straight line, it's a circle, right? Because when I give, I am also receiving, right? Like, in giving, he was able to teach me a lot about myself. And he was able to teach me how to detach. He was able to teach me how to let go of my agenda and how to just be, right? It was really beautiful. I really grew as a facilitator during that retreat, and every retreat and every session. I'm always growing and evolving. When I bow, I'm also lifted. And so today I want us to look more closely at the circle of service, because service, it's not just one thing, it has many dimensions. It begins with self, it expands to others, it widens to the Mother Earth, and then it stretches into the kingdom of all beings everywhere and nowhere. So let's walk through each of these together, beginning where it must always begin, with the self, the inner sanctuary. Our first dimension of service is a service to capital S self, the inner sanctuary. So service has got to begin here. We can't pour from an empty vessel. I mean, how many of us have skipped meals, sleep, prayer because we were too busy helping others? This is false service. It may look holy, but it depletes. True service honors the self as temple. In the Bhagavad Gita 3:19, it says, "Therefore, without attachment, perform your duty, for by doing so one attains the supreme." Aeon read this earlier, and I'm repeating it now because it's a powerful, powerful voice. So I can't tell you how many times over the last 17 years that I have been burned out. How many of you, raise your hand out there, have been burned out by helping others? Many, right? Especially those of us in the healing professions. It happens, right? It happens. We either we take on too much, or we want to help so many that we stack all of our clients all day long, or you work in a hospital and it never ends, or there's just so many ways to serve the kingdom. And so many of us are doing that because we want to give, but then we end up feeling empty, right? And then what happens? Well, our body is going to tell us, you need a break, and you're going to get sick. You're going to, knock on wood, get in a car accident. Like, something is going to happen to stop you so that you can take care of yourself, right? And I had to learn this the hard way, but I did. And I was grateful to learn this early on in my psychotherapeutic career, that if I didn't take care of me, there's no way I could take others, right? Like we always hear, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put on other people. And you got to do that. And if I'm getting oxygen all day, man, I can help the world, right? It's just beautiful. And I'm filled with energy, not depletion. So here's a reflection, something to think about. Where in your life are you neglecting the temple of your own being? What would it look like this week to serve yourself? Not from selfishness, right? Because when I was like, oh, I want to help the world, I want to save the world, I want to, blah, 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 that's like selfishness, right? That's ego, right? That's not coming from my soul, right? So how can we serve ourselves from devotion? So when we honor ourselves as temple, something beautiful happens. Our cup begins to overflow. And from that fullness, service naturally extends outward. The next circle of service is to others, not from depletion, but from kinship. And from that sanctuary, service naturally overflows. But service, it's not charity, it's kinship. It's not me helping you, but us remembering that we are one. Luke 22, verses 26 through 27 says, "Let the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves." one who serves. Think of the times when you've offered a listening ear to someone who felt unseen. Maybe you just sat in silence, yet in that silence, something holy happened. You realize that their honesty gave you permission to be more honest too. This is the mystery of service. When we show up for another, their presence and their truth also serves us. Service, it's not charity, it's exchange. It's a circle of blessing. So here's the anchor phrase. The hand that gives is also the hand that receives. This is huge in 12-step fellowships. The 12-step fellowships saved my life. I was introduced to them when I first came into recovery in 2008. And one of the phrases in my 12-step fellowship out of the book says, the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. I can't tell you how many times I was in the triangle of self-obsession. Let me tell you a little bit about this triangle of self-obsession. Anger at the top. I'm pissed off and angry at my present reality. I wish things could go differently, but they're just not going the way that I want them to go. Then I move into fear of the unknown or fear of the future. And then I'm in resentment, which is reliving the past again and again. So I'm mad at today, fearful of tomorrow, and reliving the past again and again. And I'm swirling around in this triangle of self-obsession. And someone once told me, some wise soul once told me in early recovery, there is one way out of the triangle of self-obsession. And that is service, helping others. And I said, well, I don't have anything to give. I'm pissed off and angry and afraid and just mad. And they were like, exactly. So why don't you pick up the phone and call someone and ask them how they're doing? Not about you, Chris. Call them and say, hey, how are you today? What's going on in your life? And I did that. And I was catapulted out of like little self, right? I was catapulted into capital S self because I was actually there for someone else. And by being there for someone else and not even talking about me or my problems, I was filled with peace and serenity and love. So when we truly see others as kin, like brothers and sisters, right? The circle widens because beyond our human family, there is a greater body that we share, the Mother Earth herself. To serve others without serving the earth, kind of incomplete because the mother sustains every breath that we take. In Psalm 24:1, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The earth is not a backdrop. She is the altar. Every act of reverence is service. How we eat, how we walk, how we bless the waters and the stones. Even taking a plastic bottle to recycling can be holy if it's done with consciousness. Here in where we live in Bucerias, we don't have recycling on our street, but we do have recycling bins at the gym or near the beach. And so we take our recycling in bags, and that's not convenient, but does it matter? When I'm contributing to the love I have for the Mother Earth, who sustains my life, I'll do anything, right? And so we put them in bags and we take them with us in the Uber to the gym and we pile them in, and it's like, oh, and we go down to the water very often and we do offerings to the sea, right? We take flowers and we walk into the sea and we throw the flowers left and right and we thank the mother for the healing that happens here. We ask the mother permission. This week we have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man here that's here doing an immersion with us, a private immersion. Wow. Talk about service. It's like, oh, so beautiful to be able to serve so unconditionally, right? This other brother that's just like, oh my gosh, like you just have no idea the transformation in the last 6 days. It's just been absolutely beautiful. And one of the first things that we do is we go down to the sea the first day with flowers in our hands, and we walk into the sea and we ask the mother for permission to heal. And we give gratitude to the mother for her land. We give gratitude for the beautiful earth medicines that help us heal. right? And it's just so amazing. And then today, we will do the closing ceremony where we go back to the sea to offer gratitude with a little twist, which I'm not going to tell you about because he's sitting right here and it's a surprise. But once again, we'll offer ourselves to the mother and say, thank you. Thank you, mother, for holding us, for carrying us, for loving us, and for taking care of us. So here is the anchor phrase. As I bow to the earth bows to me. So I invite you to place a hand on the floor or your heart and just take a moment to silently thank Gaia. And if you feel disconnected from Gaia, take your shoes off. I know in the USA, we wear shoes everywhere all the time. But if you have any grass or ground or sand or anything around you, take your shoes off. Walk around a little bit outside. It's such a beautiful way to connect to the mother. So, beloveds, how might you treat the earth as temple this week? What is one act of reverence you can offer in how you walk, how you eat, and how you bless the waters or the stones? But even the earth is part of something greater. Beyond this planet lies the kingdom, the web of all beings, seen and unseen, ancestors and future generations, visible and invisible realms. At this level, service becomes an orientation, a vow to live so that all beings may rise together. We are not alone. If you think that in this vast universe, we are the only conscious living beings here, how can that be possible? I mean, look at the amount of creatures that are in a square inch of grass. We are just a little piece of sand on the beach in this massive universe. So how can we be service to the kingdom? When I say kingdom, right, it's not just my neighborhood or my family. It's like Earth and beyond in this dimension and so many others. So here we're in 3D, right? 4D is like heaven and like, spirits and ghosts and angels and guides. And then we were moving up and we're actually shifting now into 5D, which is super exciting. And I'm really hoping that Am will talk about this in a future sermon because he's so wise when it comes to this dimensional shift. It's just really cool. He showed us the coolest YouTube video the other day, and I was like, so cool. So we're all like moving into 5D right now, but there definitely is a little war going on between 3D consciousness and 5D, right? 3D being fear, hatred, anger, and war, and 5D being love, consciousness, service to the kingdom, right? Unconditional love, right? And so it's happening, people. It's happening, but it's going to be quite the ride. But we're in it. We're in it, and you can feel it by what's going on in the world, right? So even beyond the earth, there's this kingdom, right? And at this level, service is no longer what we do, but it's who we are. So Yogi Bhajan said, if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. Let me repeat that. If you can't see God in all, then you can't see God at all. So the anchor phrase here is, my life is service, my service is prayer, and my prayer is my life. Can you feel the ripple of your life touching beyond what you see? If every word, every choice, and every breath became an offering, not just for you, not just for your family, but for all beings? When my mom died this year, she died back in November. It's been almost a year now. And it was beautiful because I was able to be with her. I was able to hold her hand as she took her last breath. I was able to usher her into the afterlife, to give back what was so freely given of me. She birthed me after, I think it was 37 hours of labor. And they said, I did not want to come out. And they said, if we don't do an emergency cesarean, you're both going to die. And so they did. And I was born May 27th, 1975. I'm not telling you the time because I'm not going to have you do my chart. Now, if you want to see my chart, I'll share it with you. But it was, it was so beautiful that she was able to give me that, right? Yeah, she was able to give me life and I was able to be there for her. Now, During the last few years of her life, well, I've been a clinical social worker since 2008. But before that, I've had lots of other careers in my life. I was a professional dancer. I was a singer. When I grew up in church, I was like a big singer. I mean, they used to teach us how to hold, this is how old I am, people. They taught us how to hold the microphone. In the church that I went to, you had to hold the microphone in a J for Jesus. Now, I love Jesus. Jesus is a cool, cool guy. I'm sure if Jesus were here, he would be sitting right here at the Merkaba Temple in Bucerias, hanging out with us, laughing and having a blast, right? What an incredible, enlightened human. And but yes, we were taught to hold the microphone cord. Anyway, long story short, I did all this stuff, right? And I was a trophy kid. So, whatever I did looked good for mom, and she really liked that because people would praise her because I was doing so well. Well, when I became a social worker and I started helping people, it wasn't so, it wasn't so glamorous in her eyes. So, she never told me like, I'm really proud of you, or I can, see how many people that you're guiding and or any of that stuff. But when she passed away during that first week, I was in my office. And generally when people pass away, they stick around. They're really close until, for the first few weeks until they kind of go off and to do their next work and the next level. And I was sitting in my office and I heard her and she said to me, and she actually showed me what she saw. She saw the ripple, right? Like she saw all of the people that I've seen, and I've worked with thousands and thousands of people over the years. And what she showed me is she showed me those people and she showed me the ripple effect of imagine if you help okay, if I help myself, right? One, I'm sober, so I'm helping myself by being sober. When I'm sober and putting the sober oxygen mask on myself, then I can help others. If I help one person, think of how many people that one person can then help, who then helps someone else, who then helps someone else. Imagine the ripple effect. And she said to me from the other realm, I am so proud of you, son. Now I know what you've been doing all these years. And I am so proud of you. And I am so sorry that I didn't acknowledge that when I was alive. And I said, it's okay, mom. Now you know. It's all good. So, beloveds, we see the circle of service in its fullness. It begins with self, it flows to others, it bows to the earth, and it expands to the great kingdom of all beings. These four are not separate paths, but one living current, a spiral of devotion. When we serve ourselves, we are strengthened to serve others. When we serve others, we remember our oneness. And when we serve the earth, we honor the altar that sustains us. And when we serve the kingdom, our whole life becomes a prayer. And yet we must also be honest. Not as service flows from the soul, but sometimes what we call service is actually ego in disguise. So, because I'm running out of time, I'm going to move through this quickly. So if you'd like to look at the replay, Archer Temple on YouTube. So let's look at some real life examples of what it looks like when our ego gets in the way. So sometimes service is like the ego in disguise. We have obligation versus overflow. Obligation says, I said yes because I felt I should. You stay late at work or you agree to help a friend, but inside you're drained, resentful, and even invisible. That's not holy. It's exhaustion dressed as service, right? Overflow, on the other hand, says, I said yes because I was already full. When your service flows from a nourished self, you leave the moment energized, alive, and more whole than ever before. This is true service. Next, we have pity versus kinship. So pity says, I am above you. I am helping you, right? You hand $1 to someone on the street, but you avoid their eyes as if you were the giver and they the only receiver, right? Kinship says, I'm with you, brother, remembering we are one. It's when you sit and listen to a grieving friend and their courage awakens your own. It's when you share a meal and you realize you're both being nourished together. Next, we have martyrdom versus devotion. So martyrdom says, I'll sacrifice myself for everyone else. You burn out, skip meals, ignore your own needs, believe that suffering makes your service more pure. But what does that leave behind? It leaves just emptiness. Devotion, on the other hand, says, I will honor myself. I will serve from fullness, because when you tend to your body, your spirit, your breath, you then show up with joy, with strength, with presence. From this place, your service heals and uplifts without devotion. So take a moment, beloveds. Which side of these contrasts do you find yourself living in more often? Obligation, pity, martyrdom, or overflow, kinship, and devotion? And don't get me wrong, there is no judgment here, only awareness. Awareness itself is the first act of service. And so let's close again with a quiz. Do you serve from obligation or overflow? From pity or kinship? From martyrdom or devotion? No judgment, only awareness. For awareness itself is the first act of service to the capital S self. So here is my invitation for you. This week, choose one act of service in each dimension. To capital S self, rest, nourish, or pray. To others, extend your kinship, not duty. Hey, how are you today? To earth, an act of reverence, an offering to the Earth Mother. And to the kingdom, a prayer for all beings. Imagine if we each did this. Imagine the ripple of light across the universe. Let us close in prayer. Beloved Source, beloved Guru, beloved Shiva, beloved Earth, make our lives become service. Make our service become prayer. And may our prayer become life again for the healing and rising of all beings. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Guru Om. Amen. Aho. Ashe. And so it is. And beloved ones, as we let this prayer ripple through us, may we carry the remembrance that service is not only what we do, but who we are. And now, to deepen this truth beyond words, we turn inward. My beloved Aeon will guide us into meditation, where service becomes silence, breath, and presence.